Part 1, you little weirdos loved it. And honestly, I've been sitting on more of these since then because the list just keeps growing. There are places on this planet where the most important questions, what's in the soil? What's living in that cave? What are they building inside that mountain? Cannot be answered. Not because science doesn't have the tools, but because someone won't let it in. Let's get into it. There is an abandoned island in the East River in New York City, visible from the Bronx, from Manhattan, that almost no one is allowed to set foot on. North Brother Island was the site of Riverside Hospital, a quarantine facility for infectious disease patients from 1885 until 1943. Typhoid Mary, the most famous asymptomatic disease carrier in American history, was held there for over 2 decades. She died on the island in 1938. In 1963, New York City designated it a bird sanctuary. Public access is completely prohibited. A comprehensive archaeological or environmental study of the island, its burial grounds, its medical waste, its soil contamination from decades of infectious disease quarantine has never been conducted. There are buildings still standing on North Brother Island, ruins of the hospital, the morgue, the staff quarters, and they are rotting into the ground in the middle of the most populated city in America, and the city has decided that nobody gets to study what's inside them. The holiest site in Shinto, and it has been completely off limits to scientists and archaeologists for its entire existence. The inner shrine is dedicated to Amaterasu, the sun goddess and mythological ancestor of the Japanese imperial family. Access is restricted to the imperial family and senior Shinto priests. No archaeologists, no geologists, no scientists of any kind. Here's what makes this extraordinary. The shrine has been dismantled and rebuilt every 20 years for approximately 1,300 years. That means the ground beneath has been built on, torn up, and rebuilt 65 times, and no archaeological excavation has ever been permitted beneath the site. The shrine reportedly houses the Yada no Kagami, the sacred mirror, one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan. Whether that's true has never been verified because no researcher has ever been allowed inside to confirm it. The land beneath the grand shrine could contain 1,300 years of buried artifacts, or it could contain nothing. Nobody knows because the Japanese government and the Shinto priesthood have decided that the holiest ground in Japan will never be studied by science. For 1,300 years, that decision has held. In the mountains of southern Kyrgyzstan, there is a town surrounded by 23 unstable dumps of radioactive uranium waste left over from Soviet-era mining. The waste sits on hillsides in an area that is seismically active. Landslides have already occurred. In 1958, a tailings dam failed and radioactive material poured into the Mailuu-Suu River, which flows into the Fergana Valley, one of the most densely populated agricultural regions in Central Asia. Millions of people live downstream. Independent environmental scientists have had limited and sporadic access. The Kyrgyz government has restricted comprehensive independent monitoring. The full extent of the contamination, how much has already reached the river system, what the long-term health impacts are for the communities downstream, has never been completely studied. Radioactive waste sitting on earthquake-prone mountains above the water supply for millions of people, and the scientific assessment that would tell you exactly how bad it is has been blocked, delayed, and underfunded for decades. Off the coast of Pohnpei, there is a city built on water. Nan Madol consists of 93 artificial islets constructed on top of a coral reef connected by canals. It's sometimes called the Venice of the Pacific. The islets were built from massive basalt columns, some weighing up to 50 tons. Nobody knows how they were transported. Some of the stones came from the opposite side of Pohnpei, miles away across jungle and water. There is no written record of its construction. Local mythology says it was built by 2 brothers who used magic to fly the stones through the air. The site is deteriorating. The canals are silting, the islets are sinking, archaeological study has been extremely limited, the site is remote, funding is scarce, and the Pohnpei state government controls all research permits. There are islets at Nan Madol that have never been excavated, structures whose purpose has never been determined. An ancient city on a coral reef built from 50-ton stones that shouldn't be there sinking into the ocean, and most of it has never been studied. The DMZ is a strip of land 250 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide that separates North and South Korea. It's been almost entirely untouched by human activity for over 70 years. The result is that the DMZ has become one of the most important wildlife refuges on the planet. Endangered species like the red-crowned crane, the Amur leopard, and the Asiatic black bear have been documented there. But here's the problem. The North Korean side is completely closed to all foreign scientists. Zero access, no ecologists, no biologists, no environmental researchers. The South Korean side permits limited study, but only within a restricted military zone and only with approval. A nature reserve created by accident, sitting between two countries that won't let anyone look at it properly. In September 1957, a storage tank at the Mayak nuclear facility in the Soviet Union exploded. It was a plutonium production facility in the Ural Mountains. The explosion released radioactive material across roughly 20,000 square kilometers. It is the third worst radiological accident in history after Chernobyl and Fukushima. The Soviet Union did not acknowledge it publicly. It was classified. Over 200,000 people across dozens of villages were affected. Many were not evacuated for years. The contamination zone remains restricted. The Mayak facility continues to operate as a nuclear reprocessing plant. It has a documented history of dumping radioactive waste into the Teka River, which flows through populated areas. Russian environmental organizations attempting to independently monitor Mayak have faced obstruction, restricted access, and legal pressure. A nuclear disaster worse than 3 Mile Island that the Soviet Union buried for 30 years. A facility that's still operating, and independent scientists who are still not allowed to properly study what it's doing to the people living around it. Between 1944 and 1986, approximately 500 uranium mines operated on Navajo Nation land across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. Navajo workers were not told about the health risks. They were not provided protective equipment. They drank water from the mines. They built their homes with leftover mine material. And when the mining ended, the companies left. They did not clean up, and over 500 abandoned mines remain on Navajo land today. The EPA has identified radiation levels at some sites that are hundreds of times above safe limits. And here is the part that makes this a banned from studying entry. Comprehensive, independent studies of the health impacts on Navajo communities have been blocked, delayed, and underfunded for decades. A 2017 study found elevated levels of uranium in the blood of Navajo residents living near abandoned mines. Navajo women showed uranium concentrations up to 40 times higher than the national average. But a full-scale independent health study of the 500 mines and the communities around them has never been conducted. 500 abandoned uranium mines on land where people are still living, and the full scientific study that would tell you exactly what it's been doing to them has been blocked for 40 years. Diego Garcia is the largest island in the Chagos archipelago in the Indian Ocean. It is also one of the most strategically important military bases on Earth, leased to the United States by Britain and operated as a joint US-British naval and air support facility. Between 1967 and 1973, the British government forcibly removed the entire native population of the Chagos Islands, approximately 2,000 people, to make way for the military base. They were relocated to Mauritius and the Seychelles, where many lived in poverty. The base on Diego Garcia has been used for classified military operations, extraordinary rendition flights, and as a forward operating location for bombers. Independent scientists have limited access to study the environmental impact of the base, the coral reef damage, the fuel storage contamination, the ecological logical consequences of decades of military activity on a tropical island. The Chagossians themselves have never been allowed to return. In 2024, Britain announced it would cede sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, but the US lease on Diego Garcia was extended for at least 99 years. An island where an entire people were removed, a military base was built, and independent scientists are restricted for 99 more years. Until 1974, Varosha was one of the most popular tourist destinations in the Mediterranean. Luxury hotels, beaches, restaurants, casinos. In August 1974, the Turkish military invaded Cyprus. The entire Greek Cypriot population of Varosha, approximately 39,000 people, fled. They expected to return in a few days, but they were never allowed back. The Turkish military fenced off the entire district. Barbed wire, guards, signs warning that trespassers would be shot. Varosha became a sealed city. 6.5 square kilometers of hotels, apartments, shops, schools, and hospitals completely abandoned and completely off limits for 46 years. No scientists were permitted inside. No environmental researchers could study what happens to a modern city when it's sealed off for half a century. No structural engineers could assess the buildings. For 46 years, Varosha was a sealed laboratory for the study of urban abandonment, and nobody was allowed to look at the results. In 2020, Turkish Cypriot authorities partially reopened a small section, but the vast majority remains sealed. Nanda Devi is the second highest mountain in India, rising 7,816 meters. In 1965, the CIA and Indian intelligence launched a secret expedition to place a nuclear-powered monitoring device near its summit to spy on Chinese nuclear activity in Tibet. The device weighed roughly 123 pounds and was powered by plutonium-238. But before the team could reach the summit, a blizzard forced them to turn back. They secured it at Camp 4, planning to retrieve it the following season, but when they returned, it was gone. An avalanche had swept the device away, burying it somewhere beneath the mountain's ice and snow, in a glacier system that feeds the headwaters of the Ganges River, relied upon by hundreds of millions of people. Expeditions to Nanda Devi were banned for decades, officially for environmental protection, but the missing nuclear device was the unspoken reason. Independent scientists have never been allowed to conduct a comprehensive radiological survey to determine whether the plutonium has entered the water supply. A nuclear device planted on a mountain by the CIA, lost in an avalanche, buried in ice that feeds one of the most important rivers on Earth, and nobody has been permitted to fully investigate whether it's leaking because nobody is allowed to look. Awesome. All right, that's great. Perfect. All right, guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Livia Kozlovsky, and I will see you again soon. Bye.